Coming up on Valley News Live at 10, what's behind a city leader's call for fireworks to be legal on the 4th of July?
As the city faces a crucial blood shortage, one group says there are too many barriers to donate.
And how soon before you could be heading north into Canada again. Valley News Live at 10 is next.
This is Valley News Live at 10.
The dust may have settled on this year's 4th of July celebration, but there's still some smoke in the air over Fargo.
A city commissioner is pushing to make fireworks legal. Valley News team's Nishay Taylor joins us live from the newsroom with his reasoning. Nishay?
Mike and Stacy, Fargo City Commissioner Tony Garrick says he has been proposing to legalize fireworks since 2017. He says prohibition is simply just not working. He adds the mess left behind at Shields Arena is an example of the policy's ineffectiveness. Garrick argues the law is not being strictly enforced. Fargo police are reporting 182 fireworks related calls since June 27th. They responded to every single one but didn't issue a single citation. He says that's putting a strain on police and fire resources that could be used elsewhere. Garrick also argues if fireworks are legalized, people won't shy away from calling the authorities if something goes wrong.
We know people want to do it. People are doing it. So the community is telling us what they want by doing what they want. Costing the taxpayers a lot more to enforce a law that's unenforceable is taking away from the officers doing exactly what they should be doing. And there's a large fire department pull on that as well because people aren't reporting the incidences when they happen because they're afraid of getting arrested or fined.
Garrick says the law states you cannot get arrested for the illegal use of fireworks. Meanwhile, over in West Fargo, fireworks are legal to possess and use. City Commissioner Eric Jurdevig believes the policy in its current form is working, but feels it wouldn't hurt to reevaluate the policy in the future.
I do think when you have a policy like that, it's not only about just somebody's comfort in their home in terms of not hearing the noise, but it's a safety concern in the community. I think it's worth revisiting periodically to make sure that we that the current commission has the same beliefs in supporting that policy.
Commissioner Garrick also believes there are options to making fireworks legal in Fargo, including by designating areas across the city to shoot them off. He believes it could work by requiring a small group of officers, firefighters, and emergency staff on hand to keep everyone safe, rather than having them all responding to frequent fireworks complaint calls. He says he is open to suggestions on how to better implement this idea, but foresees pushback from other commissioners. Mike?
Hey, thanks, Nishay. In West Fargo, there were 5 fire calls related to fireworks. In Fargo, there were a dozen. West Fargo police only received 35 fireworks complaints since 6 p.m. July 3rd.
A Fargo man is asking for equal opportunity to give blood, especially during this supply shortage. Currently, the Food and Drug Administration policy states a gay man must wait 3 months after his last intimate encounter with another man before he can donate blood. But there are no such restrictions for heterosexuals. He believes even though the rule has slightly changed over the years, there is still a stigma surrounding the LGBTQ community, which generates back to the start of the HIV/AIDS epidemic.
If there's willing adults that are willing to donate blood, then why not take from them? Each sample that's donated, it doesn't matter who it's from, it gets tested anyways. There's people that get HIV diagnoses after donating blood. So what's the difference if I'm able to give as a homosexual or a heterosexual who doesn't know that they are carrying HIV?
In a statement regarding the FDA referral policy, the American Red Cross said it seeks to build an inclusive environment, adding that the Red Cross believes blood donation eligibility should not be determined by methods based upon sexual orientation. Now, if you'd like us to investigate an issue in your community, here's some advice. Call our whistleblower hotline. The phone number is there on your screen, 701-237-6576. Call that number and leave your tip, and a member of our team will get on the case and go to work to expose the truth.
The 4th of July holiday weekend was the busiest travel weekend since coronavirus hit. And now North Dakota tourism is about to get a booster shot of visitors thanks to our neighbors to the north. Reporter Joel Crane explains.
Canadian officials are easing pandemic restrictions this week with the hope that the border could possibly reopen by the end of the month. That would be welcome news for many North Dakota businesses who would welcome back Canadian tourists. Canadian trucks and cars were backed up daily at ports of entry to North Dakota prior to the pandemic. More than 500,000 Canadian vehicles traveled into North Dakota in 2019. Last year, that number was down 77%, as travel was limited to essential workers only. The void of Canadian tourists has affected many areas in North Dakota, from recreation to revenue.
We're really anxious for that border to open up because we really depend on our Canadian visitors. We love to be able to welcome them back, hopefully sooner rather than later.
Where are you headed to today?
Many Canadian vehicles transport shoppers to Bismarck and other North Dakota cities. The dollars they spend make a big difference to area businesses.
We have some stores that they don't have there, even the big box, but they do like to see our local stores as well.
The border won't open soon enough for some attractions that depend heavily on Canadian traffic.
I know the state fair is pretty brokenhearted that they can't welcome Canadians back to that here in a couple weeks.
Tourism Director Sarah Audie Coleman says that in addition to Canadian contacts, her agency has kept in touch with overseas operators that she says will hopefully add market share to state tourism when international gateways reopen.
There are 18 border crossing sites in North Dakota. The border has been closed since March 21st, 2020.
Fargo police are asking for your help tonight in finding a woman who's been missing for 5 days. 31-year-old Carrie Doherty was last seen on Friday, July 1st. And police say while they have followed up on possible addresses and phone locations, they have not been able to locate her. Doherty's family members have received texts with varying stories and explanations of her absence. One text stating that she'd been in a bad accident and was no longer with us. That has not been confirmed. She's 5 feet 5 inches tall and weighs 130 pounds. If you have any information on her whereabouts, call dispatch. The phone number is 701-451-7660 or contact your local law enforcement agency.
More surveillance video of the January 6th Capitol insurrection has been released by the Justice Department. It shows a group of roughly a dozen rioters harassing and backing up guards until they could break into the Senate chambers. Those individuals are seen holding flags and other symbols showing support for then President Donald Trump. The group is seen shoving and chasing two Capitol officers, then heading into a normally off-limits section of the Capitol.
We have some breaking news now into our newsroom. Fargo fire crews are responding to a semi-truck that was fully engulfed in flames. Crews say the truck was engulfed when they arrived on the scene. However, we have not been able to tell. If somebody can let me know about where this took place at. They say they knocked down the fire within a few minutes. Crews are continuing to investigate the cause of this fire.
After years of fighting, the company operating Keystone abandoned its efforts and the pipeline itself. Now the company who helped build that pipeline wants compensation, and it's going after the U.S. government to get it. According to TC Energy, the U.S. isn't holding up its end of a trade deal with Canada. On top of other financial damages, the company announced it'll be suing the government for $15 billion after the pipeline shut down. North Dakota's congressional delegation says the company was left with few options. Senator John Hoeven adds we should be working with our neighbor and ally, Canada, to strengthen North America energy security rather than relying on oil from less stable parts of the world. Industry leaders say they don't expect this kind of case to cause market instability and then cause price fluctuations, but this may impact whether other countries are willing to work in the U.S.
Theodore Roosevelt is one of the nation's most admired and respected icons, but a sculpture of the 26th president outside the American Museum of Natural History is not as publicly accepted. Our D.C. Bureau reporter Kristen Casper takes us inside this year's long discussion to remove the sculpture from its home in New York City.
A statue of the 26th president, Teddy Roosevelt, still stands 10 feet tall outside of New York City's Museum of Natural History. But it won't for long. Late last month, the city's design commission unanimously approved the removal of the equestrian statue because of what they say it's come to symbolize: racial hierarchy and discrimination. Pressure to remove the monument resurfaced following the death of George Floyd. Last year, the museum joined the movement and publicly requested its removal. But the conversation is now calling into question the legacy of both the monument and the man.
That had it not been for his time in North Dakota, he never would have been president.
Teddy Roosevelt took to North Dakota, famously spending time in the Badlands. Dickinson State University President Stephen Easton says their Teddy Roosevelt Center is working to piece together his history by digitizing thousands of documents. But Easton says they're also finding proof of Roosevelt's injustices too, such as the Brownsville incident and his reported support for eugenics.
There are certainly things that Theodore Roosevelt did in the arena of race relations that I think he erred on, that he called it wrong.
Now the fate of his statue remains unclear. New York officials say they're working on how to store the sculpture until it can be relocated to a publicly accessible location. Kristen Casper, Valley News Live.
The former president's father was a museum founder. His great-grandson, Theodore Roosevelt IV, supports the statue's removal. And Easton says Dickinson University has no interest in acquiring it.
Parts of Florida, including the Surfside area, could be facing a life-threatening storm surge, damaging winds and rain, and possible tornadoes from Hurricane Elsa. The storm was upgraded ahead of making landfall again Wednesday. A state of emergency now covers 26 counties, along with tropical storm warnings and coastal flood advisories along Florida's Gulf Coast. At least 4 counties are opening shelters, while others have activated their emergency operations centers.
Still ahead tonight on Valley News Live at 10, the president unveiling a plan giving a shot in the arm to people getting vaccinated for COVID.
But first, Hutch joins us with details on your forecast. Stay with us.